Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijender Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English. Presently, I have been posted at Government College, Guda. In the series of video lecture which I am preparing, this lecture is meant for Class BA Part 3rd, Subject English Literature, Paper 2nd. And this is the second video on the story My Beloved Charioteers. In this video, we are discussing the appropriateness of the title of the story, My Beloved Charioteer, or aptness, or we can say the significance of the title, My Beloved Charioteers, a story written by Sasides Pandey. About Sasides Pandey, one thing one must know that she occupies an honorable place among women Indian writers who writes in English. She is an award-winning Indian novelist. She was born in Karnataka and she belongs to a family who has related with dramas. She is the second daughter of famous Kannada dramatist and writer Sri Ranga. She published her first collection of short stories in 1978 and her first novel, The Dark Holds No Terror, in 1980. She was honored with the Sahitya Academy Award for the novel That Long Silence in 1990, and she was also honored with the civil honor by Government of India, the Padam Shri Award in 2009. She writes both short stories and novels about family life and women's concern in middle class Indian society. She chooses the themes which are related with middle class in India, and particularly the issues in which women plays a very important role. For example, dysfunctional families, embittered mother-daughter relationship, the ego and the body battering often invisible in marital relationship, the precarious nature of love and inescapability of duty. These were the issues which have been raised by Shashi Deshpande in her works. If we have a look at the growth of literature after independence, we find that after independence, most of the Indian authors tries to write on such issues such as nationalism, cultural conflict between East and the West, whether East is better or Western culture is better, or confrontation of tradition and modernity, which frequently occur among the main themes chosen by the writers of the time. But after post-modern era, a change was visible in the selection of themes by the authors. As our writer Shashi Deshpande is a post-modern Indian writer, so she chooses different themes. She does not choose the traditional themes, but different themes. She is such a literary voice, we can say. She has become the literary voice to give the voice of those feelings which remained hidden in the past. She unearthed and unbosomed the feelings which were in the heart of women in the past, but now she explores them. She presents them before the audience. Simultaneously, she tries to furnish the reader with quintessential women by closely analyzing the women's psychological, emotional, and intellectual needs and aspirations, cravings, and desires, and the conflicts and catastrophes that they inevitably bring in their wake. Now, let us come to the story. The story, My Beloved Charioteer, is a study of the relationship of an old lady with her widowed daughter Aarti and her grandmother Priti. Sorry, her granddaughter Priti. Aarti is indifferent to her own daughter Priti. She does not prepare tea or cook meals for her. She is so much engrossed in her personal grief that she does not fulfill her motherly duties. Hence, Preeti does not like to sleep in her mother's room because she either reads or smokes, while Aarti sleeps properly. The child Preeti is well looked after by her grandmother, while the old lady and the child feel at home in each other's company. The daughter remains a sort of foreigner. The old lady tries her best to establish a cordial relationship with her daughter in order to shake her out of her stupor caused by the unnatural death of her husband. But the daughter takes refuge in her father's room. This story suggests the strong influence of a dominating father upon a growing child, daughter. Preeti does not occupy a major portion of the story. She has been given a very little space, yet she turns out to be the central figure in the story. Her grandmother rightly calls her my beloved charioteers. Sasi Deshpande is indirectly referring to the beloved charioteer Lord Krishna from the Mahabharata book 4th, who with his skill takes in hand the great engine of hope and gave the mankind and Arjun an invaluable inspirational message. That is, just as Lord Krishna inspires and guides Arjun in Mahabharata and also gave a message of Gita, which is now a treasure for mankind. In the same way, this little girl, Riti, cast indelible impression on the personality of grandmother and guides her in her problems. To her grandmother, she is like Lord Krishna who drives Arjun's chariot in the Mahabharata and motivates him to discharge his duty in the battlefield. In other words, she plays a similar role in the story and motivates her grandmother to discharge her duty to bring her daughter out of the gloom, out of the sadness in which she has fallen herself. It is Preeti who imparts a new meaning to the dull and flat life of the grandmother. She affectionately calls her grandmother Aji. She becomes a source of happiness for her grandmother. They are shown to have very intimate relationship and enjoy life in each other company. They form a conspirational team that excludes Aarti. That is, there was good relationship between grandmother and Preeti, and Aarti was out of the network. When she is not at home, the grandmother feels that she is missing something. As the writer writes, when she is gone, silence settles on the house, a silence that will not lift till she returns. Preeti does not like to sleep in her mother's room. She prefers the company of her grandmother. She has changed the life of the grandmother. She sees the photograph of her grandfather and asked her grandmother innocently who he was and what was he of yours. She also inspires her grandmother to do something to shake her daughter out of her stupor caused by the unnatural death of her husband. But the daughter takes refuge in her father's room. The grandmother realizes, means Arti does not respond to her brother's advances. The mother feels that she is sad. She says, if my daughter is so empty that she can hate people who are happy, the fault is to some extent mine. A typical Indian thinking. Since the mother is unable to bear isolation from her daughter, she makes an attempt to communicate her grown-up yet immature daughter by confronting her with the reality of her own situation with her father. Means one day she gives outburst to the feelings which were hidden in her heart before her daughter Arti. She says, he was your father, but what was he of mine? I lived with him for 25 years. I know he didn't like unstringed beans and hated the grit in his rice. I know he liked his tea boiling hot and his bath water lukewarm, and he hated tears. And so when your baby brothers died, I wept alone and in secret. I combed my hair before he woke up because he did not like to see women with untidy, loosened hair. I scarcely dared to breathe. I was so terrified of disturbing him. Means she made it clear that the relationship with her father was not a normal one. She was always a secondary or a slave as far as relationship between her mother and her father was concerned. The disclosing of the oppression she has experienced throughout her life opens her daughter's eyes to the true character of her father, which results in the reconciliation of the daughter with her mother. Means when Arti came to know about the real character of her father, she came back to her mother and established a good relationship with her mother. The realization that it is the inescapable feminine destiny to suffer secretly for the sake of material and moral security is brought home to Arti. Thus, Sasi Deshpande in the story not only stresses upon the darker experience of a woman's life, but also emphasizes the significance of the mother's role in motivating daughter to live and rise above the debasing sentimentality. In conclusion, it may be said that Priti has been an inspirational force for the grandmother. She infuses courage in grandmother and enables her to bring her daughter out of the prison of gloom. Means we can say the daughter Arti was in depression and she comes out of the depression because of her mother's effort, and these efforts were created by the mother due to the inspiration of Priti. It is because of her presence that she is able to get strength to fight the battle for the happiness of her daughter. Priti turns out to be a ray of sunshine in her dark existence. She is a source of great solace for her grandmother. She is really her beloved charioteer. Thus, it can be stated without any trace of doubt that the title of the story is very apt, suggestive, and appropriate. That is, it is Priti who motivates her grandmother to act and to bring her mother and her daughter out of depression. Thank you very much.